This video is a bit different from what I normally share about partying in Paris, but I did party while I was in Albania. But after spending a week there in Durrës, I thought it'd be fun to tell you more about it because I don't know about you, but whenever I see people posting about Albania, all I see are people at the beach. I don't really see a lot of people talking about it. I have heard that people are really nice, but I thought it'd be nice to do a deep dive into what my experience was like. And like I said, I didn't really know what to expect. I just had a friend who told me that everyone is so nice there and that I could come visit whenever I wanted. And then when I looked up the prices to fly there, it was 20 euros from Paris. So I was like, okay. Then I looked up an apartment with a living room, bedroom, washing, terrace, kitchen, like all of the things you can need with a view of the beach. 7 nights, 200 euros. And I really couldn't make any other reason not to go. That was within a month of looking at the flights. So I booked it. And so in total for flights, I spent 48 euros to come back, but then you have to spend the 15 euros to get to the airport. And then I ended up buying a bag on the way there and the way back. So I don't know, it was about 100 euros total. Completely worth it. And through this video, I'm going to tell you about all of the prices for things. But I would say that the most shocking thing and the thing that I tell everyone when they ask me, how is your trip to Albania, is there were so many Black people. It was an insane amount of Black people. This is the most Black Americans. This is the most Black people that I've seen on this side of the ocean. Granted, I have not made it through Africa past Morocco, but still, that says a lot because I've been to a lot of different places in Europe and it was just so shocking. Like, I remember I was sitting at a cafe on my first full day there. This woman comes up to me, Jennifer, so nice. She's like, hey, you're new. What's going on? Like, she just introduced herself. We started having a conversation. She's like, are you in the Facebook group? And yada, yada. And I ended up running into her again at the end of the week, having a dinner with a bunch of other Black people that I happened to meet when I was there. It was just so shocking because even during that moment when she met me at the cafe, she was like, oh, there's someone else on the beach I want you to meet. Let me go get her. But she wasn't there. And then not even just Black Americans that I happened to meet and hang out with while I was there because of the friend that moved there. She's super social, super grateful for people like this who want to organize things. Even the people walking around, like the tourists, there were so many. Like, there are some Black people not speaking English. I couldn't tell you where they're from. British people, Dutch people. It was so shocking to be in Durrës, Albania, because even if you hear about traveling to Albania, I don't think people are going to Durrës. Durrës is a 30-minute drive to the coast from the airport of Tirana, which is probably where you would be flying into. Yeah, it was just really interesting because it was like, normally when I go places, I will count the amount of Black people that I see, or I'll even assume that there aren't going to be any Black people. This was not the case at all. It was shocking. And people are actually moving to Albania. Like, the people that I was hanging out with when I was there, they're moving. And as an American, you can stay for 1 year with your passport. And to rent an apartment, all they do is take a copy of your passport. And people are paying, like 350 euros a month for an apartment. And I get it. I do. But I also wonder how things are going to go long term for the country to be inviting people in like this. I hope it doesn't have too much of a negative effect on the locals and the prices for things. But also in this town that we're in, there are a lot of empty buildings. Like, you could definitely tell. And even my friend was saying the week that I arrived was the first week that a lot of places were opening for tourist season. And I went at the last week of May, and they considered June to be the beginning of tourist season. But yeah, even when I mentioned it on TikTok, because, I had to tell people about all the Black people because it was so shocking. A woman responded and said, yeah, I'm moving with my son in the fall. Like, people aren't moving here. You guys, the people I was hanging out with, they moved within the last few months. Like, it is a thing. Even people on Instagram that I've followed for years and that just send a message here or there in Albania. And so it makes you wonder, like, what's going on with Albania? And so I had some interesting things that I learned. And one of them, it was a friend who told me before I went, but she was saying during World War II, they were one of the few countries, if not the only country, that was a refuge for Jews. I think that really speaks to how they are as a people. They are so nice. Like, even the fact that, of course, I don't speak any Albanian, but I was able to get everything I needed done, and people were just generally nice about it. There were no issues. except with the men. But that happens everywhere, unfortunately. And actually, that reminds me, whenever I first arrived, my friend said something like, the movie Taken is based off of Albania. And I had no idea. And then I looked it up, and the kidnappers, the human traffickers, are Albanian, which is just a fun fact. I'm not saying that's going to happen to you if you go. But as someone whose parents were very concerned for them to leave the States, travel, do a lot of travel by themselves, they constantly reference the movie Taken as if something is going to happen to me. And I think it's a bit interesting that, I left France to go to Albania, and the movie Taken was based on Albanian human traffickers on vacation in France. But I'm still here. And that reminds me, whenever my friend, so I keep saying friend, this is a woman I met through Instagram who is so cool, so nice. We were chatting for a bit, and she was like, I would love to start a community for Black women living abroad or who want to move abroad. Would you want to start it with me? And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I would love to be able to create a resource for people to rely on each other to be able to do something that they have the dreams of doing, or just to make things easier if you're already living abroad. And so that's the friend who invited me. And we actually had our first call with Where Roots Roam while I was in Albania. And it was kind of like the whole reason for the trip. But anyways, it reminds me, she also told me that she was having some issues there. And specifically with the Albanians, and it was her and someone else, and they said that they have been called the N-word by children. I think it was children both times, but not in a way of like trying to be assholes, just in a way of thinking that they were able to say it and needing to be educated about it. So I think that's really interesting. And also I wanted to save it to the end because it was kind of like, but you're going to find out anyways. I was not a fan of the men in Albania. And I would say that it has a lot to do with the fact that for some reason, and I know the reason, I'll tell you the reason. For some reason, they think that a woman walking down the street needs to be followed in a car and that the woman is going to get in the car. And it's quite frustrating. And there was even a time I remember where I was walking down a side street because I basically only stayed near the beach. I didn't go to the city center at all. The closest I got to the city center, I actually just went to the beach to go to a nightclub. But yeah, I was on the side street and I was walking, and the way this group of guys stared at me was so intense. It was so intense, and not in a good way at all. It was like somewhat scary to the point of like, oh, it's broad daylight, but now I know not to go down any of these side streets at night because I don't want to have to deal with that. And then even on the main street, they are following you. Like at some point, a guy passes me in his car, circles around multiple times to get my attention, and eventually leaves. But then another guy, he pulls past me, drives past me, pulls over to the side, and then waits till I'm walking by to try to talk to me from the car. And I'm like, dude, when will this ever work out for you? And then that's when I realized, because of the friend who's still there, and she's also very investigative and loves to know why people act the way that they do. But it's because they're having an influx of prostitutes going to Albania, and it's Brazilians, and I don't remember who else. I'm sure there's like lots of different types of people who are going, but people with darker skin tones, and it's becoming an issue with people buying apartments and using the apartments for their things. And apparently it's becoming like a stereotype that if you're a woman living alone and you look a certain way, that is because you're having men over and getting paid for it. But I must say, by the way that I dress, I don't think I give off those vibes. So they need to figure that out because it is quite frustrating. And even just walking down the street, it'll be men at tables having a beer or whatever, not really doing anything, and just yelling at you from the street. And I'm just like, dude, I don't want to engage like this, And whenever I was looking up things before going, like to be respectful, I saw that Albanians don't like to stare at people because they consider it rude. And I was so excited because, I live in Paris. Staring is very common. It's very annoying as an American, where I come from a place where staring is considered rude. And I was looking forward to it, but these people were staring at me so hard, y'all. The only thing that made it slightly better is I would say 50% of the time if you smiled at them while they were staring, they smiled back. So at least there's that. And the whole vibe of Durrës, it reminded me of my time in Guatemala. There was a time where I was traveling and I really had nowhere to go because I quit my job, but I didn't really have plans for anything. And I really liked this small town in Guatemala near Lake Atitlan. And I stayed for a month. And during this time, I got really acquainted with loud sounds, like to the point where if I had PTSD from being in war or something, I would have freaked the fuck out. They had so many dogs where I was living. So I was basically kind of in the mountains a bit, like you had to hike to get to my house. And not every night, but some nights you would hear dogs barking for hours. And they were so aggressive. It was to the point like they were arguing with each other. And it sounded like one person had 20 dogs because they were all coming from the same area. It wasn't this aggressive in Durrës, but there was a lot of dog barking to the point where it sounded like they were having conversations with each other, and it was at any time of day. It was so insane. And there was also cats. There's a lot of street dogs and there's cats, but of course you don't hear the cats, right? And another reason why it reminded me of my time in Guatemala, because in Guatemala, for some reason, well, because of colonization, they were convinced somehow to start setting off bombs for the church. I mean, I can't even like really explain anything further than that. But now what it's turned into is now it's just for any celebration possible, they are just setting off tiny bombs. Like when I first arrived in Guatemala and Antigua, I kept hearing it and I was like, oh, are there fireworks? And then it just so happened I was there on a holiday weekend and there were fireworks. And then I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I kept hearing it. And then I realized, oh no, it's just the bombas. They're just setting them off all the time for fun. And then when I was staying at the lake, I remember I was just sitting, minding my own business. Not that far away from me, there were two kids and they just set one off into the air. It was so loud and they just looked so happy. They just looked like they were just having fun. And that sound was going off all the time. It was so intense. And it reminds me actually, because I met a Guatemalan recently when I was partying in Paris. And I don't know how I came up with complaining about how loud it was. Maybe they brought it up, maybe I brought it up, I don't know. But I mentioned how insanely loud it was, and they were like, yeah, I hate it. It's horrible. But actually, on our birthdays, it's a tradition to have someone set off firecrackers to wake you up on your birthday. And then I was like, that's interesting. Is it just for kids or whatever? She's like, no. It just goes on throughout your life. And these people are just hearing loud sounds all the time. And that just, I can't imagine. I can't imagine that. But I bring this up because whenever I was in Durrës, maybe it was the time of year that I was, but there were fireworks constantly throughout the week. And I can't give you any explanation for what they were there for. Maybe they won't happen if you go, but that plus the dogs barking at any time, like intense barking, had me feeling like, oh yeah, that time in Guatemala a few years ago. And you know, even though they had so many street dogs, it was interesting because I never saw dog poop on the street. Never. It wasn't even like, oh, it was there and someone picked it up and it smeared a little bit. There was no dog poop ever. And that is so shocking to me because in Paris, I'm constantly walking around dog poop and there's no street dogs. There are only pets. And something else about the dogs, and then I'll move on to something else, but I just think it's really interesting. So apparently the dogs, they all have ear tags and then they'll tell you their aggressiveness. So red is stay away, green is okay. And I thought that was really interesting because as I've been traveling, I had to think about it. I don't think I've really ever been anywhere with street dogs. It's usually cats. And then someone else said a way to deal with the dog if it comes up to you and you're trying to scare it away or whatever is to pretend like you're bending down to pick up a rock to throw it at the dog. Usually that works. It worked for a friend of mine. So hopefully you don't have to ever be in that situation. But it reminds me that same friend told me her issue with the Albanian men and how they were just all up on her, making her feel uncomfortable and unsafe. And it's hard to say. Like, I don't know if they're doing it to people who look like they're not from there because we're clearly not from there. And Yeah, I don't know about that one. On a happier note, though, I did find a store like TJ Maxx. And you're probably like, Brie, how did you find a TJ Maxx in Albania? It's not exactly a TJ Maxx. It's called Sensei, but it's totally the same vibes. Like you can find stuff for the home, you can find clothes, you can find like random things. I got so many cute clothes. I was so happy. I could have went with more space in my suitcase, but I just stuffed it all in and figured it out on my way back. And I would say maybe I spent 70 euros total in my shopping there, but I got so much stuff and I even thrifted a dress. And they actually have really interesting thrift stores. Like I went to one place where they had a bunch of things from Pretty Little Thing and a lot of them had tags on it. So I don't know how they're sourcing these, but a lot of the things in their thrift stores also they say like made in Italy or whatever, and you just have to dig. It's literally just buckets and buckets of things, and if you dig you can find stuff. And honestly the shopping in general was really decent. I would say if you feel like you don't have anything to wear while you're traveling and you just want to buy stuff when you're there, this is a place that you can do it. And something that was really interesting actually about like the store Sensei that I was shopping at and just in general and people, they would just tell you the price in euros. Like the price tag at Sensei for the things was in euros. If you go to the thrift shop, they tell you the price in euros. And whenever I went, the conversion was like, say 400 lek would be 4 euros, which was very easy to figure out, you know. But I just thought that was so interesting. And even when I went to Western Union to take out money to pay for the apartment, they asked me if I wanted it in euros or lek. And the apartment guy wanted money in euros. So I don't know what they're doing over there with the currency, but it's very interesting. So if you're already in Europe, you can just show up with euros and take out more money when you're there. But yeah, the restaurants and things, so those all took lek. It was just some random things. Really, the only thing that took euros, though, was the apartment. But they will just say the price in euros. And eating out in general, I would say it'd be like 10 euros a meal, depending on how you eat. Of course, if you're a drinker, all of these things. But just like a solid meal, not really drinking, I would say would be 10 euros. And the food was fine. It wasn't like anything like, oh my God, it was so good, except for this one chicken place. And I can find the name for it, but basically the whole menu is in Albanian and you order your food by the kilo. It was so good, y'all. It was so good. This was also the night that I tried the rakia, the Albanian rakia. And I had rakia before when I was in Croatia. And I like trying the local liquors when I go somewhere just to see, you know, just to hang out. And everyone was a bit skeptical about drinking it, but I was like, we're here to do it. I'm going to do it with you. It's €1. You can get drunk for €1 and you're sipping it. And I remember when I was with the people who were making excuses to not drink it or were just drinking it and wanting to stop, their excuses had things to say like comparing it to gasoline and jet fuel. I'm not exaggerating. They literally said these words. And those are accurate descriptions for it. It is so strong. I don't know how people are drinking it. I understand it's cheap, but it's just like, it's so intense. My preferred drinking is always going to be tequila. I say always. For the moment, it's tequila. And I found El Jimador, which is solid tequila that you can just get whenever you're out to buy a bottle or whatever. And that reminds me whenever we went to this bar, there's this bar owned by some Americans that are so cool, so nice. Really like this bar. And when I went, it was like 2 shots in the lemonade for 12 euros. That is a great price, you guys. What's not so great though is the ketchup. And that might sound really weird, but you know when you go out to eat and something's not that good and then you're like, oh, but it would be better if I just put ketchup on it? Don't do it. Do not do it. It's so nasty. It tastes like candy in a way. Someone described it as watery, but it's not good. And I just gave up because at first you're like, oh, it's just this place. Oh, it's just this place. No. The mayo is hit or miss as well. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're putting in it, where they're taking it from. But it reminds me of how people were complaining about getting a good burger. Because you know Americans, we need a burger. And they were saying that like the picture advertisement for the burgers is nothing like what you get when you order it. It's basically like a meatball with herbs and stuff in it. And they sounded so disappointed. And then so someone was like, oh, you have to go to Lico's. Lico's has a good burger. And I went before going out and I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's good, cool. And then my friend went and she was like, I need to start a TikTok series about, is this good or are we desperate? Because this is not good. Now, that was such a good point to bring up because sometimes you are just desperate. Sometimes you just want a burger. And then I went back because I really wanted a burger. A few days later, it's like the first day of my cycle and that was all I could think about. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get a burger. It wasn't that good. It was just like, it's just, I was desperate. But something that is really good and I would 1000% suggest to get, and I'm still thinking about it and I'm so sad that I wasn't able to get it on my way out, like leaving and taking it to the airport with me, is burek. It's so nice. It's supposed to be like a breakfast item, but it's very heavy. You can get spinach and cheese, or you can get like a meat and onion, and it's rolled in a dough and then oven baked. And it was so good. It looks a bit strange, I will say, but it's so good. And apparently you're supposed to go to a place that just says burek. Like, don't go to a place that has other things and burek, just go to a burek place. And so I did this, but I did it with a different burek place than the one my friend took me to, and it was so nasty, y'all. It was so disappointing. It was like a pie. Like, it looked completely different than the one that I had had before. Yeah, so they're not all equal, unfortunately, but it's really nice, really filling if you just need something on the go, and it's less than €2. So good. And something random that was a bit shocking to me were the amount of people ordering things delivered to them, because I don't know, I'm never a delivery type of girl. I'll just go pick it up myself. But you can use the app Wolf and get your groceries and your food delivered to you. And I think that's really nice. The only things I haven't mentioned are about getting around and going out. And getting around was really easy. Like I said, I just stayed by the beach. But a lot of friends, they had the numbers of taxi drivers, and that was just their guy. So that's the thing. But then also you can take a bus to the city center for like 40 cents. So really easy to get around. You know what's interesting though is Google Maps is not very good. Like, Google Maps will say it's a 30-minute walk and take you all kinds of ways, but it's probably 15, 20. I don't know. I just heard it's not that good. I heard Apple Maps is better, but I never open Apple Maps, so I can't confirm that for you, but that's just something to be aware of if you're going to be traveling around. And I'm so happy that I got to go out while I was there, because I love to dance, and we went to this party with Afrobeats. And you know, I remember before the weekend, we were trying to figure out where to go, and people were saying they only found this one place called Oma. They couldn't find anywhere else. No one else could come up with anything else. And I'm not saying this is the only place to go, but this is the only place that 10 people could figure out where to go to. 5 to 10 people, I don't remember the exact number. But when we went, it was quite busy actually, and they had fireworks. And I remember when we were waiting outside to get in, because they were trying to regulate it, you know, and make us seem busy and all of these things. We actually had to pay €10 to get in because we went after 9:30. But while we were waiting outside, there was this child. I don't know why this is so funny to me, but there was a child walking around with tissues. Like, I don't know if it was some kind of scheme or grand master plan or something that I'm not aware of, but they were trying to offer tissues to people for money. And I just thought that was a very interesting thing. I've never seen that. And also, I have to give a shout out to Gabby, because she's so funny. I met her on this trip and she's fucking hilarious. We're standing outside, the line's not moving, and she'll just yell the most random things out. And she'll be like, I'm Albanian, let me in. Like, yelling it. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then she was saying some other things too. And she was like, you have to stop me. I'm just going to keep doing it. And I was like, I don't know how to stop you. You just keep saying things out of nowhere. Also, something that was really exciting was whenever we went inside, there was a point where, you know, there's like an MC on the stage just like yelling things. And he was yelling like, vous êtes fatigué, vous êtes fatigué. Some friends looked at me and they're like, is that French? And I was like, oh my God, it is. I didn't even realize it. I just understood it. Oh my gosh, I think I'm becoming bilingual, you guys. And it's really exciting. That was a really exciting moment for me. And yeah, in general, I would say that I had a fun time when I was there. I could definitely see myself going back and exploring other parts of the country. And I hope that this video was insightful for you. If you have any questions, of course, put them in the comments. And if you're interested about partying in Paris, don't forget to subscribe and tune in for the new videos coming soon. And maybe by the time you'll see this, I'll be in Milan. And maybe there's another video to tell you about what happened in Milan, because I'm very excited to go. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you in the next video. Work.